your money. It's telling your money where to go. And for a lot of Americans, we file taxes and we think back to 2024 and think, we made all this money, but where did it go? And so I don't want that to happen to you this year. So regardless of where you are, having a budget is so, so important.
Is it still possible to budget when you're deep in debt?
It is, and you want to put your debt in your budget. So the most effective way to budget is a zero-based budget. So you're going to take your income for the month, so we'll just pretend for January, and even get out a sheet of paper. You can do this on paper and write it at the top. And then you're going to list out all of your expenses, including some giving, saving, and your debt payments, and then everything else you have to pay. And so the goal is for your income to fill out all of those categories. So when you add up those categories minus your income, it equals zero. So every dollar of your paycheck throughout January has a plan, it has a name.
Okay, so setting a budget might be hard for someone who's going through some type of lifestyle change. Yeah. How do you suggest they navigate that?
Well, you want to be able to look back and say, okay, here's what we spent money on in the past couple of months. And if there is a big change that happens, this could be getting married, having kids, changing a job, that may mean some of these categories are going to have to decrease, meaning you're going to have to say, okay, we spent all of this money on this category, but maybe we're going to have to cut back. So maybe that's canceling subscriptions. Maybe that's spending less and shopping at a different grocery store than where you're grocery shopping now. It's finding these little changes that are going to add up big. But again, it's going back and realizing, hey, here's what we spent in some of these categories, knowing we're going to have to change some of these numbers, so where can we change and what's realistic?
Hey, Rachel, I want to get back to something you mentioned just a few seconds ago. You talked about a zero-based budget. What does that mean?
A zero-based budget just means that you have a plan for every single dollar coming in. So some people budget based on percentages and saying, the 50, 30, 20 rule. But a zero-based budget is just saying, here's the income for the month, and I'm only spending and saving what I make. And this really helps you stay out of debt, because some people live above their means, and that gets them deeper into debt, which is really difficult. And so a zero-based budget, again, is your income minus your expenses, including giving and saving, should equal zero.
All right, let's talk about saving. There's the emergency fund. How much should be in this fund, especially now when we feel like we're getting hit with fees and fines left and right?
Yes. Well, you want to start off with a starter emergency fund of $1,000. Now, 40% of Americans right now cannot cover a $400 emergency in cash. So for a lot of Americans, that means that they don't have $1,000 right now. So you're going to have to cut expenses, get a side hustle, do what you can very, very quickly and urgently to get $1,000. And then I want you to start working your way out of debt, which takes people on average around 2 years. Once you are debt-free, you'll bump up that starter emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of expenses. So all of that, honestly, that's where the piece comes in with your money. If you have no debt and 3 to 6 months of expenses, that changes the game for where you are financially for most Americans. And again, this is going to be over the course of a couple of years. That's really your long-term plan, but you can start January of 2025 of getting that $1,000 emergency fund first and foremost.
I got like a few seconds here, but what is snowball method of getting out of debt?
So the snowball method is one that I recommend, and that's where you pay off the smallest debt first. Some people want to tackle the highest interest rates, but paying off the smallest debt is so important because personal finance is all about behavior change, and you want to get quick wins, right? You're not chasing math here. You're chasing behavior change and encouragement, knowing, okay, even if it's a $400 credit card and I pay it off in full, I won. Like I did something great,
it's
right?
A win.
And then you can move on.
Celebrate your wins.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And for more financial tips, you can follow Rachel on Instagram at Rachel Cruz. The QR code is right there on your screen. We'll take you directly to her website, where she is actually hosting a free session on New Year finances.